Lee Min-ho controlled half of Seoul's underground. Drug routes, protection rackets, politicians in his pocket. 37 years old. Untouchable. Feared. But the man staring at his reflection couldn't get hard. 9 weeks since the ambush. 9 weeks since a bullet kissed his spine, and his body stopped obeying orders. The doctors said he'd walk again, and he did. What they didn't say was that everything else would die. Seoul's most dangerous man. Broken where it mattered most. He'd gone numb for 9 weeks. Until the moment she walked into the room, and something inside him flickered back to life. A woman with skin like midnight and curves that defied physics burst through the emergency room door carrying a bleeding man, looked Min-ho dead in the eye, and said, "Move or I'll move you myself." That voice, that presence, that absolute absence of fear. For the first time in 9 weeks, Lee Min-ho felt his body wake up, and it terrified him. This is the story of how a mafia boss lost everything that made him a man, and how a woman who survived hell taught him what power really means. If you want to see where this goes, and trust me, you don't see this coming, hit that subscribe button now. You'll thank me later. The clinic existed in the basement of a Gangnam building that officially housed a dental practice. Dr. Yoon had been stitching up Min-ho's crew for 15 years, asking no questions, keeping perfect records that would never see daylight. 3:47 in the morning. The city above still pulsed with neon desperation. But down here time moved like honey. Min-ho sat shirtless while Dr. Yoon removed the last stitches from his lower back. The scar had healed cleanly, a thin line where the bullet had grazed his spine, and kept going. Lucky, they said. They were fucking wrong about lucky. Any improvement? Dr. Yoon asked, his voice clinically detached. Min-ho's jaw clenched. No. 9 weeks of trying everything. Pills that made him nauseous. Injections that did nothing. A parade of expensive escorts whose only accomplishment was making him feel more broken. Therapy sessions where a psychiatrist with soft hands talked about trauma and mind-body connection while Min-ho sat there thinking about all the ways he could make the man disappear. Nothing worked. His empire ran on control, territory, fear, respect. But his own body had become enemy territory, and he couldn't negotiate with it, couldn't threaten it, couldn't make it obey. The impotence wasn't just physical. It was existential. Every morning he woke up feeling like a ghost wearing a dead man's suit. The psychological component, Dr. Yoon began. I know what the component is. The memory stayed crisp. Walking out of Club Moonlight in Itaewon. Guard down for 30 seconds. The black van. Masked men. His bodyguard Sung-ho dropping with a hole in his throat before he could even reach for his gun. Then white-hot pain. His legs giving out. Pavement cold against his face. The certainty that he was dying. He survived. Sung-ho didn't. And now Min-ho existed in this half-life where everything worked except the one thing that made him feel human. Dr. Yoon finished the bandaging. You're healing well physically. The door exploded inward. A woman dark-skinned, powerful, wearing construction gear covered in dust and blood burst into the clinic, carrying a man who outweighed her by 40 pounds. She moved with the efficiency of someone who'd carried bodies before. Her eyes found Min-ho. No recognition. No fear. Just assessment and immediate dismissal. You're in my seat. Min-ho stared at her. People didn't talk to him like that. People who knew who he was stepped aside, bowed, apologized for breathing his air. This woman looked at him like he was furniture. Do you know who I am? The words came automatically. She shifted the bleeding man's weight, and Min-ho caught the full impact of her presence. Tall, maybe 5 to 10. Curves that her dusty construction vest couldn't hide. Face that was all sharp intelligence and controlled fury. An accent that was British with something warm underneath. I don't care if you're God's personal assistant. My guy bleeds out, you bleed out. Move. Heat exploded through Min-ho's body. Not metaphorical heat. Actual. Physical response. His groin tightened. Blood rushed to places that had been dead for 9 weeks. The sensation was so sudden, so overwhelming, that he actually gasped. Dr. Yoon intervened quickly. Professional instinct taking over. Put him here. Hear what happened. Rebar collapse. Legs shredded. Hospitals are too far. The woman laid her worker on the examination table with surprising gentleness. Blood soaked through makeshift bandages. She held pressure on the wound without flinching. Min-ho should have left. He'd gotten his stitches out. This wasn't his business. But his body was still responding. After 9 weeks of nothing, the sensation felt like lightning in his veins. He couldn't move. couldn't look away from her. You run construction? Minho heard himself ask. I run construction. He works construction. There's a difference. She didn't look at him, focused entirely on her injured worker. You going to stand there staring? Or you going to make yourself useful? Nobody talked to him like that. Nobody. He should have been angry. Should have reminded her that he could make her disappear with a phone call. Instead, he grabbed towels from Dr. Yoon's cabinet and brought them to the table. She glanced at him, quick assessment. Dismissal, then took the towels. Hold pressure here while the doctor preps. Minho pressed where she indicated. The worker groaned, consciousness flickering. Stay with me, Kwame. The woman said in that accent that did things to Minho's nervous system. You're not dying on my watch. I've got quotas to meet. Dark humor while covered in someone else's blood. Minho found himself almost smiling. Dr. Yoon worked fast. Irrigation, sutures, antibiotics. Professional efficiency that came from decades of emergency medicine in circumstances that required discretion. The woman never left her worker's side. Never flinched when he screamed. Never showed weakness. She was the youngest foreman Daehan Construction had ever promoted, managing over 200 workers on a $1 billion project. Minho didn't know that yet, but he would. When Dr. Yoon finished, the woman helped her worker sit up slowly. She spoke to him in what sounded like twice soft, reassuring, completely different from her commanding tone moments before. Then she turned to Minho. Thanks for the towels. That's it? What else is there? Your name. She studied him for a long moment, calculating whether he was worth the information. Chloe. Just Chloe. Just Chloe. She helped her worker stand, supporting his weight. Come on, Kwame. Let's get you home. Wait, Minho's hand shot out, not touching her but blocking her path. How do I find you again? You don't. What if I need to? You won't. She walked out, helping her worker up the stairs and into the Seoul night. Minho stood in the empty clinic, his body still humming with awareness, his mind racing. 9 weeks of nothing. 30 seconds with her, and his body remembered what alive felt like. He wasn't watching her out of desire, he was terrified the spark he felt was only in his imagination. Dr. Yoon cleared his throat. That was interesting. Minho pulled out his phone, texting his second in command. Find her. Woman, late 20s, dark skin, British accent, runs construction crew. Working night shift in Seoul. I need everything. How urgent? Very. He left the clinic with more purpose than he'd felt since the bullet. Kang Taemin was good at finding people. Less than a day later, he walked into Minho's office with a tablet full of answers. Found her. Minho looked up from financial reports he'd been pretending to read. His mind had spent the last 20 hours replaying 30 seconds in a clinic. Her voice, her presence, the way his body had responded without permission. Talk. Chloe, 29, Ghanaian British, site foreman for Daehan Construction. Taemin set down the tablet. Managing the new Songpa high-rise. 42 floors. Mixed use. $1 billion project. She's been in Seoul 8 months. Minho scrolled through surveillance photos. Chloe on construction sites, wearing a hard hat, directing crews with hand signals. In every image, men listened when she spoke. Supervisors deferred to her judgment. She commanded without effort. Background. Born Kumasi, Ghana. Raised in London from age 12. Civil engineering degree from Imperial College. Worked projects in Dubai and Singapore before Seoul. Taemin paused. Clean visa. No criminal record. No debts. Everyone has something. If she does, it's buried deep. Taemin pulled up another file. But there's an incident. 8 months ago in Accra, a contractor named Joseph Mensah was executed in his home, 2 bullets, professional work. His girlfriend was there. Escaped through a window while the shooters were still inside. The air in the office changed. The girlfriend was Chloe. Taemin continued. Mensah ran a construction company funded by gang money. When he tried to go legitimate, they killed him. Police suspected Chloe knew too much. But she disappeared before they could question her. Resurfaced in London 3 weeks later. Then Singapore. Then here. She still slept with the light on, one habit she never shook off since Ghana. That detail appeared in a surveillance note. One of Taemin's men had observed her apartment in Seongsu-dong. Late at night, her lights stayed on. Always. A woman who commanded 200 workers and managed $1 billion projects slept with the lights on because she'd watched someone she loved die violently. The contradiction fascinated Minho. What's your read? Taemin asked carefully. She's running from something. Or she was. Now she's working. High-profile project, legal everything. She's done running. Boss. Why do you care? She's nobody. No connections to our world. That was exactly why Minho cared. She didn't know who he was. Didn't fear him. Didn't want anything from him. She'd looked at him and seen an obstacle. Nothing more. And his body had responded to that. Keep light surveillance, Minho said. I want to know where she is. But don't interfere. Don't let her see your people. What are you planning? I don't know yet. That was a lie. He knew exactly what he was planning. He was going to see if the spark was real or if his broken mind was inventing hope where none existed. 3 nights later, Minho sat in his Genesis sedan outside a Pojangmacha in Seoul. The orange tent glowed against the dark street, plastic furniture scattered on the sidewalk. The smell of grilled meat and cheap soju mixed with exhaust. Chloe sat alone at a corner table, eating tteokbokki and drinking beer from a green bottle. She'd changed from construction gear to jeans and a black shirt that somehow made her look both casual and untouchable. This was her 3rd visit to this Pojangmacha this week. Same table. Same order. Same seat facing the street. Comfortable with solitude. Minho had been watching for 30 minutes, building courage like a teenager. This was ridiculous. He'd negotiated with Yakuza bosses and politicians. He'd killed men without hesitation. He'd built an empire from 3 protection rackets and ruthless strategy. And now he was nervous about approaching a woman eating street food. Finally, he got out of the car. The ajumma running the Pojangmacha recognized him immediately. Her eyes widened, then she deliberately looked away. Smart woman. Minho walked to Chloe's table and sat down without asking. She looked up from her tteokbokki, surprise flickering across her face, before settling into something closer to amusement. Hospital guy. You remember. Hard to forget someone who stands in the way of emergency medical care like he owns the room. She took a sip of beer. Are you following me? Yes. Her eyebrow arched. Points for honesty. Minus points for stalking. If I was stalking, you wouldn't know I was here. That's not reassuring. But she gestured to the empty seat across from her. Since you're already sitting, you buying? The ajumma appeared with soju before Minho could answer. Poured for both of them. Disappeared. Chloe raised her glass. To unexpected company and questionable judgment, they drank. The soju burned clean. So, Chloe said, setting down her glass. What do you want, hospital guy? Minho. My name is Minho. Okay, Minho. What do you want? To talk. About? You. That's forward. You said honesty was better than stalking. She laughed, genuine surprise. Fair point. But let's talk about you, is what men say when they want to sleep with you but don't know how to start a conversation. Is that what you think I want, isn't it? Minho poured them both another shot. The truth was complicated. Did he want to sleep with her? Desperately. But not just for the obvious reasons. He wanted to sleep with her to prove his body still worked, that the spark in the clinic wasn't a fluke, that he wasn't permanently broken. But he couldn't say that. I think you're interesting, he said carefully. You carry injured workers into clinics at 3 a.m. You eat alone and look completely content. You don't give a fuck who's watching. That's rare in Seoul. So you're following me because I'm rare. Because you made an impression in 30 seconds. Must have been a good 30 seconds. Better than the last 9 weeks. Something shifted in her expression. She caught the weight behind his words. What happened 9 weeks ago? I got shot, almost died, recovered, mostly. Mostly? Minho met her eyes. Some things don't heal the same. She studied him for a long moment. You're not just a businessman. Are you? No. What are you? Dangerous. That's vague. That's intentional. Chloe leaned back, crossing her arms. I made it a policy to avoid dangerous men. Had one in my life already. That was enough for a lifetime. The file came back to him. Joseph Mensah. Execution. Her escape through a window. What happened to him? Minho asked quietly. Her walls went up instantly. Not first date conversation. This is a date. You tell me. You're the one who followed me here. Fair point. They sat in charged silence. Around them, the Pojangmacha hummed with late-night energy. Salarymen drinking away stress. Students laughing too loud. The eternal rhythm of Seoul after dark. Finally, Chloe spoke. He died. Violently. I was there. I got out. End of story. That's not the end. It's the only part I'm sharing with a stranger who won't tell me what he does for a living. I run operations that exist outside legal boundaries. Her eyes narrowed. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman in a complicated market. That's semantics. That's survival. She finished her beer and stood. Thanks for the honesty, Minho. But I meant what I said. I don't do dangerous men. I learned that lesson in blood. She pulled out her wallet, but Minho waved her off. I'll pay. I can pay for my own food. I know you can. Let me do it anyway. She hesitated, then nodded. Fine. But this doesn't mean you get to follow me home. Wouldn't dream of it. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, you seem like you're trying to be better than you are. I respect that. But trying doesn't change what you are. Then she walked into the Seoul night, leaving Minho with an empty table and a body that was still responding, still alive, still desperate for her presence. He sat there for 10 minutes after she left, feeling the residual warmth, the ghost of possibility. Then he called Taemin. Pull all surveillance on her. Completely. Boss, she's not a target. She's not part of this world. Leave her alone. Understood. Minho ended the call and stared at the empty seat across from him. She'd asked what he wanted. The truth was terrifying. He wanted her to fix him. Wanted her presence to heal what 9 weeks of medical intervention couldn't touch. Wanted her to make him feel like a man again. But that wasn't fair to her. That made her a cure instead of a person. And she deserved better than being someone's medicine. 2 weeks passed. Minho didn't follow her. Didn't engineer meetings. Didn't show up at the Pojang Matcha. He told himself he was respecting boundaries. The truth was simpler. He was afraid she'd reject him completely. And then he'd have to accept that the spark was temporary. That his body's response was a fluke. That he was still broken and always would be. So he threw himself into work. His empire demanded attention anyway. Takeshi's crew, the Yakuza-affiliated gang that had put a bullet in his spine, was testing boundaries again. They'd hit one of his warehouses in Incheon. Stolen product worth 200 million won. Sent a message written in violence. Takeshi never forgot the day Minho killed his father. 8 years ago. Territorial dispute that escalated into war. Takeshi's father, Sato, had tried to expand into Minho's club district. Negotiations failed. Violence followed. Minho had killed Sato personally, clean shot, no hesitation, in front of half Seoul's underworld. Necessary. Strategic. The kind of move that built empires. But Takeshi, 19 at the time, hadn't forgotten. He'd spent 8 years building power, waiting for the right moment to strike back. The shooting in Itaewon had been that strike. Revenge that nearly worked. Now Takeshi was escalating again, sensing weakness in Minho's organization. In Minho himself. We need to respond hard, Taemin said in Minho's office, gesturing at damage reports. Show strength. Remind everyone why they fear us. Minho stared at the numbers. 1 warehouse. 3 men injured. 200 million won stolen. It demanded retaliation. But his mind drifted to a woman eating tteokbokki alone, saying, I don't do dangerous men like it was law instead of preference. Match the damage, Minho said. Hit one of their locations. Equal response. No escalation. Taemin frowned. That's defensive. You always taught me to go harder than they hit us. That's what they expect. Give them equal, not overwhelming. Make them think twice about escalation. Since when do you care about what they expect? Since a woman made him remember that survival meant more than proving dominance. Since 9 weeks of emptiness taught him that his empire meant nothing if he was hollow inside. But he didn't say that. Just do it. Taemin left, clearly unhappy but professional enough not to argue. Minho turned to the window. 42 floors below, Seoul sprawled in electric chaos. Somewhere down there, Chloe was managing construction crews, solving problems that had nothing to do with bullets and territory. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is Chloe. I'm texting because showing up unannounced seems to be your specialty. So I'm beating you to it. Minho's heart rate spiked. How did you get my number? You paid for dinner with a credit card. I have friends in interesting places. Don't worry, I didn't dig deeper. But I could have. Should I be concerned? Only if you're actually a serial killer. Are you? No. Good. Then we can have dinner. Real dinner. Where you don't follow me and I don't lecture you about dangerous men. Thursday, 8 p.m. Address below. She sent an address in Cheongdam, expensive Hamwoo restaurant that required reservations weeks in advance. Bold choice. You said I made an impression. I'm testing if you can keep up. I'll be there. Wear something nice. I'm putting in effort. You should too. The conversation ended. Minho stood in his empty office, phone in hand, feeling more alive than he had in weeks. She'd reached out. Not because she needed something. Not because she was afraid. Because she was curious. Because maybe the connection wasn't one-sided after all. The restaurant was intimate, 12 tables, soft lighting, a wine list that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Minho arrived 15 minutes early wearing Tom Ford and enough restraint to not check his phone every 30 seconds. Chloe walked in at exactly 8. The dress should have been illegal. Deep emerald green that made her skin glow like polished mahogany. Fitted at the waist, flowing at the hem. Her hair down in natural curls that framed her face like art. Every head in the restaurant turned. She noticed. Didn't care. Walked straight to Minho's table with the same confidence she'd worn in construction gear. You're on time, impressive. You said don't be late. Most men hear that as a suggestion. I'm not most men, no. Her eyes traveled over his suit, lingering just long enough to make his body respond. You're definitely not. The sommelier appeared. Minho ordered something French and expensive. The man left. Charged silence. So, Chloe said, are you going to tell me what you actually do? Or are we dancing around it all night? What do you think I do? I think you're a criminal. Not small time. Big enough to afford private clinics at 3 a.m. in restaurants that require reservations I can't get. You run something. Drugs, probably. Maybe protection. Definitely dangerous. She'd nailed it in 30 seconds. And you're here anyway. Because I think you're trying not to be. She leaned forward slightly. The dress did things that made coherent thought difficult. And that's interesting. You're right, Minho said. I run operations outside legal boundaries. Protection. Distribution. Influence. I control territories and outcomes. That's what I do. Past tense or present. Present. I haven't retired. And the shooting. Consequence of my work. Someone tried to kill me. They almost succeeded. Chloe absorbed this with remarkable calm. You're telling me this because you asked for honesty. Because I'm tired of performing. Because something about you makes me want to be more than what I am. The confession escaped before he could stop it. The wine arrived. They both drank, the silence shifting from charged to almost comfortable. That's a lot to put on someone you barely know, Chloe said finally. I know. I told you I don't do dangerous men. I know that too. So why am I still sitting here? You tell me. She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the stem of her wine glass. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. Because I've been in Seoul for 8 months, and I'm so fucking tired of being alone. Because everyone looks at me like I'm foreign or exotic or don't belong. But you looked at me like I was just a person. Because I ran halfway across the world to escape violence, and somehow I'm sitting across from violence, wearing a Tom Ford suit. And it doesn't scare me like it should. Why doesn't it scare you? Because you're broken. I can see it. Whatever happened in that shooting, it broke something in you. And broken people recognize each other. The words hit harder than any bullet. They ordered food, expensive cuts of Hanwoo beef, prepared tableside, perfectly marbled, and impossibly tender. They talked about everything except the important things. Her work on the Songpa high-rise, his investments in real estate, Seoul's contradictions. The way the city felt like 3 different places depending on the time of day. It was the most normal conversation Minho had had in years. And the entire time, his body hummed with awareness. Every time Chloe laughed, every time her hand moved near his on the table, every time her eyes met, his sensation flooded through him. Not just physical arousal, though that was there too, intense and overwhelming, but something deeper, a feeling of being present in his own skin, instead of watching his life from behind bulletproof glass. After dinner, they walked. Seoul at night was never truly quiet, but Cheongdam had pockets of calm between the neon chaos. Tree-lined streets, boutique shops with window displays that cost more than cars. Thank you, Chloe said as they walked. For being honest. It would have been easier to lie. Easier doesn't mean better. No. But most people choose easy anyway. They stopped at an intersection, waiting for the light to change. Chloe turned to face him. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest again. Okay. Are you going to hurt me? The question was direct, unflinching. And Minho understood she wasn't asking if he'd physically harm her. She was asking if getting involved with him would destroy her the way her last dangerous man had. I don't want to. But my world doesn't always cooperate with what I want. If you're near me, you're exposed to danger. That's the truth. Can you protect me from that danger? I can try. I'd die trying. But I can't promise immunity. She nodded. Processing. At least you're honest. Is honesty enough? I don't know yet. She smiled, sad and beautiful. Ask me again in a few weeks. They stood at that intersection for longer than the light cycle required. Neither wanting to be the first to leave, both aware that leaving meant returning to their separate lives instead of existing in this bubble where a mafia boss and a construction foreman could pretend they were just two people who enjoyed each other's company. Finally, Chloe spoke. I should go. Early day tomorrow. I'll get you a car. I can take the subway. Humor me. She allowed it. Minho called his driver. And within minutes, a black sedan pulled up. Before she got in, Chloe turned back to him. Minho? Yes? This was nice. Let's do it again sometime. When? When you figure out if you want me or if you need me. There's a difference. She got into the car before he could respond. Minho watched the sedan disappear into Seoul traffic, her words echoing in his mind. Want versus need. He'd spent 9 weeks needing his body to work, needing to feel like himself again, needing proof that he wasn't permanently broken. And then Chloe appeared, and his body worked. Which meant what? That he needed her to function. That she was a biological fix for psychological trauma? Or was it something else entirely? He pulled out his phone and called Taemin. Boss. The surveillance on Chloe. Pull it completely. A pause. You sure? Yes. She's not a target. She's not part of this. Leave her alone. Understood. Minho hung up and started walking. Not back to his penthouse, but deeper into the city, letting Seoul's chaos wash over him. He needed to think. Needed to understand what he was doing before he dragged Chloe deeper into his world. Because she was right. There was a difference between wanting someone and needing them. And he wasn't sure which one was worse. Within 48 hours, the entire city turned into a silent war zone. Minho's crew hit 2 of Takeshi's locations as ordered equal retaliation. Measured response. A warehouse in Incheon. A front business in Yeongdongpo. No deaths. But the message was clear. We see you. We match you. Don't escalate. Takeshi responded within 12 hours. He didn't hit Minho's businesses. He hit Minho's people. 3 of Minho's mid-level operators disappeared in a single night. Just vanished from their apartments, their usual haunts, their routines. No bodies, no demands, no explanation. Then the photos started arriving. The first came to Minho's office at 3 in the morning, delivered by an unknown courier. A manila envelope with no return address. Inside, a photograph of one of his missing men bound to a chair. Beaten but alive. No note. Just the image. The second arrived 6 hours later. Same delivery method. Different man. Same condition. The third arrived at noon. By then, Minho understood the pattern. Takeshi wasn't killing them yet. He was holding them. Waiting. This is a declaration, Taemin said, standing in Minho's office with the 3 photographs spread on the desk. He's saying your equal response wasn't enough. He wants escalation. Or he wants me to make the first major move. Minho studied the photographs. All 3 men had families. Kids. Takeshi knew that. He'd chosen his target specifically. This is psychological warfare. So what's our play? We negotiate. Taemin's eyes widened. Boss. If we negotiate from this position, we look weak. If we escalate, we lose men we can't afford to lose. Minho stood, walking to the window. Takeshi wants a war. I'm not giving him one. Since when? Since I realized that proving dominance isn't worth sacrificing people who trust me to keep them alive. Taemin was quiet for a long moment. This is about her, isn't it? The construction woman. Minho didn't answer immediately. Was it about Chloe? Partially. She'd reminded him what it felt like to care about consequences beyond territory and respect. But it was also about the 9 weeks he'd spent feeling nothing. About understanding that his empire meant nothing if he was dead inside. It's about making smart decisions instead of ego-driven ones, Minho said finally. Set up a meeting with Takeshi. Neutral ground. Limited attendance. I want to talk. He's going to see this as surrender. Let him. We'll show him the difference when it matters. Taemin left to arrange the meeting, clearly unhappy but professional enough not to argue further. Minho turned back to the window. 42 floors below, Seoul moved with oblivious momentum. Somewhere in that chaos, Chloe was managing 200 workers on a construction site, solving problems that had nothing to do with violence or territory or wounded pride. He wanted to call her, hear her voice, confirm that the outside world still existed beyond his current crisis. But he didn't. She'd said she wasn't part of his business, and he needed to respect that, needed to keep her separate from this mess. His phone buzzed. A text from her. Haven't heard from you in 2 days. You dead or just busy being mysterious? Despite everything, Minho smiled. Busy. Work complications. The illegal kind or the regular kind? Does it matter? I guess not. You're going to handle it either way, right? That's the plan. Well, handle it faster. I'm getting used to having dinner with dangerous men who wear nice suits. It's a bad habit I need to feed regularly. Friday? Friday works, but somewhere casual this time. I want to see if you can function outside expensive restaurants. I'll surprise you. Don't surprise me too much. I have a weak heart. Noted. The conversation ended, but the warmth it generated stayed with him. Chloe had a way of cutting through the darkness that consumed most of his life. Just a few texts, and suddenly the crisis felt manageable instead of overwhelming. That should have worried him. Depending on someone else for emotional stability was dangerous in his line of work. But he was too far gone to care. The meeting with Takeshi happened in a private room at a traditional Korean restaurant in Itaewon Neutral Territory, owned by someone neither crew had connections to. 3 people on each side. No weapons allowed, verified by a neutral third party. Minho arrived with Taemin and one of his most experienced negotiators, a man named Baek who'd talked down more conflicts than most people had seen. Takeshi arrived with 2 lieutenants Minho didn't recognize. Young, hungry-looking. The kind of men who proved themselves through violence because they hadn't learned strategy yet. Takeshi himself looked exactly like his father. Same sharp features, same cold eyes, same presence that announced violence before words ever could. 31 now, 7 years younger than Minho, but he carried himself like someone who'd been fighting his entire life. They sat across from each other at a low table, tea served by staff who disappeared immediately after pouring. Lee Minho, Takeshi said, his Korean heavily accented but fluent. You wanted to talk. I'm listening. Return my men. Unharmed. I'll compensate you for the damages to your facilities. Takeshi smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Compensate me. Like this is a business transaction. Isn't it? No. This is about respect. You took my father from me. You took him in front of everyone. Made an example of him. Built your reputation on his corpse. And now you want to negotiate like we're equals? We are equals. 2 organizations with comparable resources. Starting a war benefits neither of us. It benefits my pride. Pride doesn't pay salaries. It doesn't protect territory. It gets people killed unnecessarily. Takeshi leaned forward. You've changed. Minho. 8 years ago, you would have come at me twice as hard. Would have made me regret touching your people. Now you're talking about negotiation and compensation. What happened? Did getting shot make you soft? The insult was designed to provoke. Minho didn't bite. Getting shot taught me that survival requires strategy, not just force. Your father didn't understand that. He pushed into territory he couldn't hold, made enemies he couldn't defeat. I respected him enough to end it quickly. I'm offering you the same respect now. Don't make his mistakes. My father's mistake was trusting you would honor territorial agreements. Your father's mistake was thinking violence was the only language power speaks. Minho kept his voice level, reasonable. I'm offering you a choice. We end this now, return to our respective territories, and move forward. Or we escalate, spend the next year bleeding resources and people, and end up in the same place but weaker. Which serves your interests better? One of Takeshi's lieutenants leaned in, whispering something. Takeshi listened, his expression unreadable. I want more than compensation, Takeshi said finally. I want territory. The 3 clubs in Hongdae. Transfer them to my operation. Minho had expected this. The Hongdae clubs were profitable but not essential. Losing them would sting but wouldn't cripple his empire. 2 clubs, Minho countered. And you return my men within 24 hours, unharmed. 3 clubs, or I start sending you pieces of your men instead of photographs. Taemin tensed beside Minho. Baek placed a calming hand on his arm. Minho calculated rapidly. 3 clubs for 3 men. The math was brutal but clear. Agreed. 3 clubs, But if any of my men have permanent injuries, the deal's off and we go to war properly. They're bruised. Scared. Nothing permanent. Takeshi stood, extending his hand across the table. We have an agreement. Minho stood and shook his hand. The grip was firm. Aggressive. A reminder that this wasn't friendship. Just strategic pause. One more thing, Takeshi said as they released hands. I hear you've been spending time with a foreign woman. Construction worker. Interesting choice for someone in your position. Minho's blood went cold. That's not part of this conversation. Just an observation. Beautiful woman like that, working on high-rise projects, dangerous work. Accidents happen all the time in construction. Would be a shame if she got hurt. It wasn't a threat. Not quite. But it was close enough. Touch her, Minho said, his voice dropping to something lethal. And our agreement ends. Not just the clubs. Everything. I will burn your entire organization to the ground and dance in the ashes. Do we understand each other? Takeshi smiled. Just an observation. No need for threats. That wasn't a threat. That was a promise. They left the restaurant separately, Minho's mind racing. Takeshi knew about Chloe. Which meant he'd been watching. Which meant despite Minho's orders to pull surveillance, someone had been paying attention. Did we have people watching her? Minho asked Taemin in the car. No, boss. I pulled everyone like you said. Then Takeshi has his own people watching me. Minho pulled out his phone, texting Chloe immediately. Where are you right now? Construction site. Why? You miss me already? I need you to go home, now. Don't stop anywhere. Go straight to your apartment and lock the door. What's going on? Just do it. Please. I'll explain later. You're scaring me. I'm keeping you alive. Please, Chloe. Trust me. A long pause. Then. Fine. Going now. Minho turned to Taemin. I want 3 men on her building. Discreet but present. No one gets near her without clearance. Boss. If we put that much security on her, Takeshi will know she matters. He already knows. Now I'm making sure he knows the cost of acting on that knowledge. They drove back to Minho's office in tense silence. His phone buzzed again. I'm home. Doors locked. You want to tell me what this is about? Can I call you? Yes. He called immediately. She answered on the first ring. Talk to me. The people I'm in conflict with, they know about you. They mentioned you in a meeting today. It wasn't a direct threat, but it was close enough. Silence. Then, because you've been spending time with me. Yes. So I'm leverage now. A pressure point. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. Minho. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is Ghana all over again. I'm a target because of someone else's choices. It's not the same, isn't it? I'm here because I ran from violence. Now violence found me anyway because I made the mistake of getting involved with another dangerous man. Her voice cracked. I should have known better. Chloe. I need to think. I'll call you later. She hung up before he could respond. Minho sat in the back of his car, phone in hand, feeling control slip through his fingers like water. He'd negotiated peace with Takeshi, traded territory for his men's lives, made the smart, strategic choice, and in the process, he'd confirmed Chloe's worst fears that being near him meant being in danger. The thing he'd been trying to avoid had happened anyway. 3 days passed. Chloe didn't call. Her phone went to voicemail every time Minho tried. Her texts went unanswered. His men reported she went to work as normal, returned home each evening. But her routine had shifted. She looked over her shoulder more, took different routes, kept her phone out constantly. She was scared. And it was his fault. On the 4th day, Minho couldn't take it anymore. He showed up at her construction site at lunchtime, ignoring protocol and common sense. The site foreman, a middle-aged Korean man who clearly recognized Minho, tried to stop him at the gate. Sir, you can't just. I'm here to see Chloe. Where is she? She's in a safety meeting, but. Minho walked past him. The foreman didn't try to physically stop him. He found Chloe in a trailer converted into a conference room, standing at a whiteboard explaining load calculations to a group of engineers. She saw him immediately, her expression cycling through surprise, anger, and something that might have been relief. Gentlemen, she said to the engineers, her voice professionally calm. Take 15 minutes. We'll resume after lunch. The engineers filed out, glancing between Chloe and Minho with obvious curiosity. Once they were alone, Chloe crossed her arms. You can't just show up at my workplace. You weren't answering my calls. Because I didn't want to talk to you. I gathered that. But we need to never. Need to what? Discuss how I've become a liability. How your enemies see me as something to exploit. She moved closer, her voice rising. I told you from the beginning, I don't do this. I don't do danger. I don't do being used as leverage in someone else's war. And you said you understood, but here we are anyway. I never wanted this. But you knew it was possible. You knew the risks. And you pursued me anyway. Because Minho stopped himself. The words too big, too soon. Because you what? Chloe demanded. Because you needed me? Because I fixed something broken in you? That's not love, Minho. That's dependency. And I won't be someone's emotional crutch while dodging bullets. The words hit like physical blows. Because she was right. He'd been so focused on what she awakened in him that he hadn't fully considered what he was asking her to accept. I'm trying to protect you, by having men follow me, by making me paranoid every time I walk home, by turning my life into something I have to survive instead of live. She shook her head. That's not protection. That's prison. Then tell me what you want me to do. I want you to leave me alone. The silence that followed was absolute. You don't mean that, Minho said. I do. I have to. Chloe's voice broke. Because if I don't end this now, I'll fall completely, and when your enemies come for me, and they will come. Minho, you know they will, I'll be destroyed. And I can't survive that again. I won't let them touch you. You can't promise that. No one can. She walked to the trailer door and opened it. Please leave. And don't come back. Minho stood frozen. Every instinct screamed at him to argue, to fight, to refuse to accept this ending. But she was right. She deserved a choice. And she was choosing safety over whatever they might have built together. He walked to the door, pausing beside her. If you need anything, I won't. He left the construction site, climbed into his car, and told his driver to take him anywhere that wasn't there. His phone buzzed. Taemin. Your men are back. Alive. Takeshi kept his word. Good news that felt hollow. He'd traded territory for his men's lives and lost Chloe in the process. The math didn't balance. 5 days later, everything went to hell. Minho stood in his penthouse at 2 a.m, staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Everything had returned to the way it was before. His body, unresponsive. His mind, numb. The city beyond his windows, meaningless. Without Chloe, without her presence or voice or the promise of seeing her. His body had reverted to its broken state. The medications didn't work. The memories of her weren't enough. He'd spent 9 weeks learning to live with emptiness. Then 3 weeks feeling alive. Now he was back to emptiness. But worse because now he knew what he was missing. His phone rang. Taemin. Boss, we have a situation. What kind? It's Chloe. Takeshi's crew took her. The world stopped. When? 2 hours ago. Outside her apartment. 15 men. Our guys couldn't stop it without civilian casualties. Taemin's voice was tight. They want to talk to you. Minho's hand tightened on the phone until his knuckles went white. Put them on. A pause. Then Takeshi's voice, smooth and satisfied. Lee Minho. I believe we need to renegotiate our agreement. If you hurt her, she's alive. For now. Unharmed mostly. She put up quite a fight. Something that might have been respect colored Takeshi's tone. She shattered a glass bottle and slashed one of my men before they overpowered her. Impressive. Pride and terror warred in Minho's chest. Chloe had fought. Of course she had. She was a survivor. What do you want? The same thing I've always wanted. Respect. Recognition. An apology for what you did to my father. I gave you 3 clubs. Clubs aren't apologies. Clubs are transactions. Takeshi's voice hardened. I want you to admit, publicly, that killing my father was wrong. That you were out of line. That his death deserves acknowledgement. That's not going to happen. Then your woman dies. Slowly. Painfully. And I send you pieces until you understand what loss feels like. Minho's vision blurred with rage. This wasn't part of our agreement. Our agreement was based on mutual respect. You brought negotiation to the table, not partnership. You treated me like a problem to solve, not an equal to work with. So now I'm showing you what happens when you underestimate me. Where is she? Somewhere you won't find her, not in time. Takeshi paused. You have 12 hours. Public apology, recorded and distributed, or she dies. Your choice. The line went dead. Minho stood frozen. his mind racing through scenarios and strategies and possibilities. 12 hours. Chloe was somewhere in Seoul, held by men who'd already proven they had no boundaries. Taemin appeared in the doorway. Boss, if you apologize publicly, you lose face. Every crew in Seoul will see it as weakness. Your empire. I don't care about my empire. Minho's voice was ice. Get everyone, every contact, every resource, every favor we're owed. I want Takeshi's organization torn apart from the inside. I want to know where he's holding her. And I want to know within 6 hours. And if we can't find her in time, then I apologize, and then I kill him anyway. Taemin nodded and left to mobilize the crew. Minho walked to his bedroom window, pressing his forehead against the cold glass. 42 floors below. Seoul glittered with oblivious life. Somewhere in that sprawl, Chloe was scared and alone, held by people who saw her as leverage. She'd been right. Being near him had put her in danger. He tried to protect her, and it hadn't been enough. It was never enough. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered immediately. Minho? Chloe's voice, shaky but alive. Are you hurt? I'm okay. They let me make one call. They're listening, so I can't say much. I'm going to get you out of there. Don't. Her voice broke. Don't give them what they want. Don't destroy everything you've built for me. You're more important than everything I've built. That's the dependency talking. That's not real. It's the most real thing I've ever felt. Minho's hand pressed against the window, wishing he could reach through space and pull her to safety. Chloe, I'm coming for you. I don't care what it costs. Then you're an idiot. She laughed, watery and afraid. A beautiful, dangerous idiot. I love you. The words escaped before he could stop them. 3 words he'd never said to anyone. 3 words that felt like vulnerability and strength simultaneously. Silence on the line. Then Chloe's voice. Barely a whisper. You don't even know me. I know enough. Minho. The call cut off. He stared at his phone, those 3 words hanging in the air of his empty penthouse. He'd said them. Couldn't take them back. Didn't want to. He loved her. Completely. Destructively. In ways that made him weak and strong at the same time. And he was going to get her back. Or die trying. 6 hours passed. Minho's entire organization mobilized like a military operation. Every informant called in. Every contact pressured. Every camera feed in Seoul scrutinized for a trace of Takeshi's vehicles. Nothing. Takeshi had prepared carefully, using locations outside his normal operations, keeping information compartmentalized. The man had learned from his father's mistakes. Minho sat in his office, surrounded by maps and reports and the ticking clock of Chloe's life counting down. His mind worked through scenarios, eliminating possibilities, searching for the pattern in Takeshi's choices. Taemin entered, his face grim. Boss, we're hitting walls everywhere. Nobody knows where he's holding her. Then we're not asking the right people. We've asked everyone. Not everyone. Minho pulled up a file on his computer. Takeshi's father had an advisor. Man named Hayashi. Retired after Sato died. Disappeared into civilian life. Find him. That was 8 years ago. He could be anywhere. He's in Busan. Running a restaurant near Haeundae Beach. I keep tabs on everyone connected to that night. Minho stood. Get me a helicopter. Now, boss. We have 5 hours left, which is why we're taking a helicopter instead of driving. The flight to Busan took 40 minutes. Minho spent them staring out the window at Korea's coastline, his mind replaying the phone call with Chloe. Her voice, her fear, her stupid, brave attempt to tell him not to give in. I thought dying was easier than losing you. He hadn't known he was capable of that thought until it appeared, fully formed. The realization that losing Chloe would be worse than the bullet. Worse than 9 weeks of emptiness. Worse than anything he'd survived. That's what love was, apparently. The certainty that someone else's survival mattered more than your own. The helicopter touched down on a private pad outside Busan. A car waited. Engine running. Minho climbed in. Gave the driver Hayashi's address. 20 minutes later, they pulled up outside a small restaurant overlooking the beach. Midday crowd. Families eating. Tourists taking photos. Normal life. Oblivious to the violence happening in Seoul. Minho walked in without announcement. Hayashi stood behind the counter, older now, grayer, but still carrying himself with the posture of a man who'd spent decades in dangerous company. His eyes widened when he saw Minho. Lee Minho. I was wondering when you'd find me. I need information. I'm retired. Your former boss's son has kidnapped someone I care about. If she dies, I burn his organization to ash. Then I come back here and burn your restaurant. With you inside. Hayashi's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Fear mixed with resignation. What do you want to know? Where would Takeshi take a hostage he wanted to keep hidden? Somewhere personal. Somewhere meaningful. Why would I tell you that? Because despite everything, you're not a monster. You're a businessman who got old and tired, and you know that Takeshi's vendetta is going to get a lot of innocent people killed if it doesn't end. Minho leaned on the counter. Help me end it cleanly. Or watch it spiral into a war that destroys everyone you used to work with. Hayashi was quiet for a long moment. The restaurant hummed with ordinary conversation. Someone laughed. A child cried for ice cream. Finally, he spoke. There's a building in Incheon. Old fish processing plant near the port. Sato used to take Takeshi there when he was young. Teach him the business. After Sato died, Takeshi kept it. Sentimental value, I suppose. Which building? Third from the east entrance. Gray exterior, broken windows on the top floor. There's a basement. Hayashi met Minho's eyes. If you're going there, bring enough men. Takeshi will have it fortified. How many? At least 12, maybe 15. All armed. Minho turned to leave, then paused. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just make sure that girl survives. I'm tired of young women dying because of our wars. The flight back to Seoul felt twice as long. Minho called Taemin from the helicopter. Incheon. Fish processing plant near the port. Third building from the east entrance. Basement. I want 20 men. Our best. Armed and ready to move in 90 minutes. Boss, if we go in that heavy, people will die. Then they die. Get it done. He hung up and stared at his phone. 4 hours left until Takeshi's deadline. Enough time to mount a rescue. Barely. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I worked for Sato. Your execution was honorable. His son has no honor. The building has 2 entrances, front and a service door on the west side. Basement access through both. The service door has lighter security. You didn't hear this from me. A defector. Someone in Takeshi's organization who'd gotten tired of his leadership. Minho texted back. How many men on the service door? 2, maybe 3. Rest are inside or front entrance. Thank you. Make it count. The helicopter touched down at a private facility outside Seoul. 3 vehicles waited, filled with Minho's most experienced operators. Men who'd been with him for years, who'd proven themselves in situations that required precision and violence in equal measure. Taemin approached as Minho climbed out. Everyone's ready, boss. What's the plan? 2-team approach. Main force hits the front entrance hard and loud. Draws their attention. Smaller team. Me, you, and 3 others goes through the service entrance on the west side. We get to the basement, extract Chloe, and get out while they're focused on the front. That puts you in the most danger. That's intentional. They drove to Incheon in tense silence. Minho checked his weapons, 2 pistols, backup ammunition, a knife. He'd killed before, but never with this much personal investment. Never with someone he loved waiting in a basement, scared and alone. The fish processing plant appeared through industrial haze. Sprawling facility, rusted buildings, broken windows catching late afternoon light. Exactly as Hayashi described. The vehicles parked 2 blocks away. Minho's crew moved on foot, using abandoned equipment and shipping containers for cover. The third building loomed ahead. Gray concrete, broken windows, the smell of old fish and decay. Minho split his crew. 15 men moved toward the front entrance, preparing for loud, overwhelming assault. Minho, Taemin, and 3 others, including a man named Park, who'd been a special forces operator before joining Minho's organization, circled toward the west side. The service door was exactly where the defector said it would be. 2 guards outside, smoking, weapons visible but relaxed. Park moved first. Silent approach. Knife work. Both guards down in seconds without a sound. They entered the building. Empty processing floor. Machinery stripped and sold. Concrete stained with decades of industrial work and probably some blood. Stairs leading down. Minho descended first. Gun drawn. Every nerve alive with anticipation and fear. What if she was hurt? What if they were too late? What if? Voices from below. Korean and Japanese mixed. Laughter. The casual sound of men who thought they were safe. The basement opened into a converted holding area. Cement floor, overhead lights, and there, Chloe, tied to a chair in the center of the room, her head down, hair obscuring her face. Blood on her shirt, bruises on her arms, but alive, breathing, real. 8 men surrounding her, all armed. And Takeshi, standing behind her chair, a knife resting against her throat. Lee Minho, Takeshi said, smiling like he'd won. Right on time. Where's my apology? Let her go first. That's not how this works. Takeshi pressed the knife closer. A thin line of blood appeared on Chloe's neck. You apologize now, publicly, or I open her throat. Chloe's head lifted. Their eyes met. She looked exhausted, terrified, but defiant. So alive it hurt to see. Don't do it, she said hoarsely. Don't give him anything. Be quiet, Takeshi snapped. Make me. Chloe's voice gained strength despite the knife. You're pathetic. Hiding behind hostages because you can't face him like your father would have. Your father had honor. You're just a coward with daddy issues and a knife. Takeshi's face went red. You don't know anything about my father. I know he'd be ashamed of what you've become. The knife pressed harder. More blood. Minho's control shattered. The shot was surgical through Takeshi's shoulder, exactly where it would spin him away from Chloe without killing him. The impact threw Takeshi backward. The knife clattered to the floor. Chaos erupted. Gunfire exploded in the confined space. Takeshi's men returning fire, Minho's crew advancing with tactical precision. The front entrance assault started simultaneously, overwhelming noise, flashbangs, shouting. Minho ran toward Chloe, ignoring the bullets, focused entirely on reaching her. A round grazed his arm, pain, distant and irrelevant. Another hit concrete near his feet, spraying chips. He reached her chair, cutting the ropes with his knife. Can you move? Yes. Her voice was shaky but determined. Stay behind me. He positioned himself between Chloe and the gunfight. Park and Taemin moved with precision, taking down Takeshi's men with efficient brutality. The fight lasted maybe 2 minutes, overwhelming force against fortified position. When the shooting stopped, 6 of Takeshi's men were down. 2 had fled through the front entrance, straight into the main assault force. Takeshi himself knelt on the floor, clutching his wounded shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. Buildings secure, Taemin said, approaching. Front team has control. What do you want to do with him? Minho looked at Takeshi. The man who'd shot him, kidnapped Chloe, tried to destroy everything he'd built. The man whose father he'd killed 8 years ago in front of Seoul's underworld. Revenge would be easy. Expected. Satisfying. But Chloe's hand found his, trembling. Don't, she whispered. Don't become what he is. Don't prove him right. Minho met her eyes. Blood on her neck. Fear still present. But trust there too. Trust that he could be better than the violence that had defined him. Call the police, Minho said to Taemin. Anonymous tip. Kidnapping. Weapons charges. Attempted murder. Let the system handle him. Boss. Do it. Taemin hesitated, then pulled out his phone. Takeshi laughed, bitter and bloody. You think this ends it? Prison changes nothing. I'll come for you again. No, Minho said. You won't. Because I'm done playing your game. Your father's war ended 8 years ago. You're the only one still fighting it. And now you'll spend the next decade in prison realizing that vengeance destroyed you more than I ever could. He turned away from Takeshi. From the violence, from the life he'd built on fear and control. He focused entirely on Chloe, checking her wounds, making sure she could stand. Can you walk? I think so. Then let's go home. They left the building together, Minho supporting Chloe's weight. Behind them, sirens wailed police, responding to the anonymous tip. Takeshi's organization would scatter. The evidence would speak for itself. In the parking lot under Incheon's industrial sky, Chloe finally broke. She collapsed against Minho, sobbing, her whole body shaking with delayed shock. He held her carefully, mindful of her injuries, letting her cry into his chest. I thought I was going to die, she gasped between sobs. I thought you wouldn't come, I thought. I'll always come for you, even though I told you to leave me alone. Especially because of that. Minho pulled back enough to see her face. Chloe, I meant what I said on the phone. I love you. It's fast and insane and probably the worst timing in history. But it's true. She looked at him with red, swollen eyes. You're an idiot. You mentioned that. And I love you too. She laughed through tears. Which makes me an even bigger idiot. I cried every night. When I wasn't answering your calls. I almost didn't come back. Back from where? From the edge. From giving up on us before we started. She touched his face with shaking hands. I was so scared. Of you. Of your world. Of what loving you would cost. And then they took me. And all I could think was that I'd wasted time being afraid instead of being with you. You have every right to be afraid, maybe. But I'm tired of running. I ran from Ghana. I ran from you. I'm done. Minho held her tighter, feeling the weight of her decision. She was choosing him. Choosing his dangerous world. Choosing uncertainty over safety. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. They stood there as sirens grew louder. As his crew secured the perimeter. As Seoul's chaos continued, oblivious to two people finding each other in the wreckage. The hospital was private, expensive, discreet. Doctors treated Chloe's injuries, cuts, bruises, the knife wound on her neck that needed stitches but had missed anything vital. Minho refused to leave her side. He sat in the hospital chair while doctors worked, holding her hand, feeling his body respond to her presence even here, even now. After the doctors left, they were alone. I need to tell you something, Minho said. That sounds ominous. The reason I was at that clinic the first night. The reason I couldn't stop thinking about you. He took a breath. The shooting damaged more than my spine. I developed erectile dysfunction, psychological trauma manifesting physically. For 9 weeks nothing worked. No medications, no therapy, nothing. Chloe listened without interrupting. Then you walked into that clinic, Minho continued. And for the first time in 9 weeks, my body responded. Just from your voice, your presence. It terrified me because I didn't understand it. I thought maybe you were just a fix, a solution to a problem. And now I know it wasn't just physical. Yes, you awakened something in my body. But you awakened everything else too. You made me want to be better. Made me realize I'd been dead inside long before the bullet. He met her eyes. I thought dying was easier than losing you. Chloe squeezed his hand. When they had me in that basement. When I thought I might actually die. All I could think was that I'd never told you the truth. That you weren't just some psychological fix for me either. You were the first person in Seoul who made me feel seen. Who looked at me and didn't see foreign or different or exotic. Just me. You saved me. Minho said quietly. In every way a person can be saved. Then we saved each other. That's better. The next morning, Minho sat in his office with Taemin and 3 of his most trusted advisors. News had spread through Seoul's underworld. Takeshi arrested, his organization in chaos. Minho's crew responsible. The clubs, Minho said without preamble. All 6 of them. I want them sold within 3 months. Legitimate buyers only. Stunned silence. Boss. Taemin said carefully. Those clubs generate 40% of our monthly revenue. Then we'll generate revenue elsewhere. Real estate. Import-export with legal products. Consulting for construction firms. Minho pulled up financial projections. I've been planning this for weeks. The numbers work if we're strategic. You're getting out, one of the advisors said. Completely. Not overnight. That would be suicide. But over the next 2 years. Yes. You sell the clubs, shut down the routes, and move everyone into legal trade. We transition from criminal enterprise to legitimate business. Why now? Because I almost lost someone who matters more than any of this. Because I'm tired of living like I'm already dead. Because there's more to life than territory and fear. Minho looked around the table. Anyone who doesn't want to make that transition can leave now. No hard feelings. I'll set you up with connections. Make sure you land somewhere safe. Nobody moved. Then we do this together. Slowly. Carefully. But we do it. 6 months later, Minho stood in the conference room of his newly formed development company, reviewing architectural plans for a residential complex in Gangnam. The transition had been brutal. Slow. Expensive. But real. 4 clubs sold to independent operators. The remaining 2 converted to legitimate nightlife venues with proper licensing. Drug distribution networks dismantled entirely. The infrastructure sold to competitors for capital that went straight into legal ventures. Protection rackets were being phased out systematically. Some territories transferred, some simply abandoned as his organization shifted focus. It wasn't a complete exit that would take another year, maybe 2. But it was progress. And Chloe had stayed. She still managed construction crews for Daehan. But now she consulted for Minho's developments too. Her expertise proved invaluable, understanding Seoul's building codes, relationships with contractors, instinct for structural problems before they became expensive. They'd moved in together after 3 months. Her office-del was too small, his penthouse too cold. They found a renovated hanok in Bukchon, with traditional aesthetics and modern amenities. Space for both of them to work, to breathe, to build something that felt like home. She still slept with the light on sometimes. The nightmares came less frequently now, but they still came. Minho learned to wake when she did, hold her until the fear passed, remind her she was safe. Mr. Lee. His project manager, a civil engineer named Kim, gestured to the blueprints. The structural modifications you requested will add 3 weeks to the timeline. Safety first. Adjust the budget. Spoken like someone who's never managed construction costs, Chloe said from the doorway. Minho looked up, smiling. She wore construction gear, hard hat under her arm, dust on her boots. She'd come straight from her site. I'm learning. Slowly. She walked to the table, examining his plans. Kim's right about the timeline. But if you adjust the load distribution here, you cut costs by 15% without compromising safety. Kim's eyes lit up. That actually works. They spent 20 minutes revising plans. Kim left with new directives, clearly impressed. Alone in the conference room, Minho pulled Chloe close. You're showing off. I'm helping. There's a difference. Are you coming home tonight? Probably late. Concrete pour scheduled. She kissed him quickly. Don't wait up. I always wait up. I know. She smiled. That's why I love you. That evening, Minho sat in their hanok living room, unable to sleep despite exhaustion. Old habits dying hard. His mind kept cycling through the day, plans approved, budgets adjusted, entirely legitimate problems that wouldn't get anyone killed. It felt strange. Good strange, but strange. His phone buzzed. Text from Taemin. Last club sold. All operations transferred. We're officially out of the nightlife business. Good. How's the real estate portfolio? Growing. 3 new properties under contract. All legal. All boring. Boring is the goal. Never thought I'd see the day. You've changed, boss. For the better. Definitely. Minho set down his phone and looked around the hanok. Traditional wood beams, modern lighting, Chloe's construction blueprints, scattered on the table next to his financial reports. Evidence of 2 lives merging. 2 people building something together. The front door opened. Chloe, covered in concrete dust, exhausted and beautiful. You waited up. Always. You're impossible. She dropped her bag and walked to him, sitting in his lap despite the dust. Pour went perfectly. On schedule. Good. How was your day? Productive. Boring. Perfect. She laughed. Listen to us. Talking about construction schedules and real estate like normal people. We're not normal. No, but we're trying. That counts for something. They sat in comfortable silence, her weight grounding him, her presence making everything else irrelevant. Minho. Yes, I'm happy. Actually happy. I didn't think that was possible after everything. But I am. Me too. We're probably going to mess this up eventually. Say the wrong thing, hurt each other, forget why we fell in love. Probably. But right now, this moment, is everything. She pulled back enough to see his face. I love you. The dangerous, reformed, still figuring it out version of you. I love you. The brave, brilliant, one take my shit version of you. They kissed in their living room, surrounded by blueprints and financial reports, and the ordinary chaos of building a life together. Outside, Seoul hummed with its eternal rhythm. Neon and ambition, and 10 million people chasing dreams. Inside, 2 people who'd found each other in darkness, were learning to live in light. Not perfect. Not easy. But real. And real was what they'd both been searching for all along. If this story hit you, if you felt that moment when Minho chose love over revenge, or when Chloe decided to stop running and start living, I need you to do something. Drop a comment telling me which scene you love. Hit that like button. And subscribe. Because I've got more stories about impossible love, dangerous choices, and people who risk everything for a chance at reality. The next story drops in 3 days. Don't miss it.